Hello, and welcome to the Varietal Show. To set the tone for tonight, I'm going to read you a little intro, then tell you what we're doing. I just need something that can get me to the outer ring. Then I'll have enough money to get me a real hot streaker of a ship, the young pilot said, fixing his high-collared rubber jumpsuit to frame his jaw just right. He squinted, stared off towards the pale sun that glared upon this quiet moon, and then he blinked a few times, and then rubbed his eyes, and shifted that stare off at the line of ruined old freighters, chargers, jump ships, and dogfighters that lined the crooked alleys of this junkyard. The scrapper looked the young man over for a minute. The old man had seen a decades turn to lifetimes out there on that old lot of broken space cruisers. This kid wasn't anything new. Despite his home being out here near an empty moon, on an empty moon rather, over a mostly uninhabited planet, he rarely spent a day alone because young pirates such as the punk before him were always nosing around, looking for something to get to them to the next galaxy or beyond. They're all good ships, the scrapper grumbled. That's why they're wrecked. A good ship runs, the young captain said with a furrowed brow and a dismissive tone. Oh, but they did, the scrapper said with a widening smile that revealed a half-deck of metal teeth from a full life of violence. Take this old ship here that you're leaning against like it's nothing at all. She's had 3 captains, each more legendary than the last, and yet all that remains of her... all that remains is her, not them. This old heap looks like garbage, the young captain said, scratching at the shaved side of his head. Scrapper shook his head and walked onwards into his scrapyard, but something held the young captain back, and after a moment of pause he called out, Who were these legendary captains then? The scrapper smirked to himself and said, Take a seat, boy, and I'll tell you the makings of real legends. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're telling the story of the real legend of a spaceship, which we're going to do using a solo tabletop RPG, which I'll explain in a little bit because this is the Varietal Show. And what we do on the Varietal Show is we use games, solo tabletop RPGs, and things like that to help us write along. And if you're here live, you can join in the live chat and give me some ideas about what these events that the ship has been through were like. Of course, if you're not here live, then you have another benefit, which is you can use the time codes down in the description to jump ahead to wherever it is you want to go. But either way, I hope you enjoy yourself as we write a story about an old spaceship and its many great legends that it was a participant in. Now, turning to the live chat for a minute, who I have desperately ignored for my own writing. Why is my frame rate so low? Hopefully that resolves itself. Witchery has an adorable little emoji. And a zombie wolf acknowledges. Love the emoji. I see Tammy, GS, and Big Drew. Hey, Big Drew, it's been a little while. It's good to see you here. Thanks for watching. Jump Store. And yes, I think that's all of them. Are joining in and giving me some ideas tonight, and you can be a part of that because that chat is where all the legends occur. In fact, it's a prerequisite when you're allowed to join my chat, just by merit of joining it. If it lets you in, if you can even enter anything in it, you've already done something legendary. We just got to figure out what it is. All right. Zombie Wolf says it's weird seeing the blue background behind the Varietal logo. I'm used to orange. Yeah, everything's inverted, which is going to be unfortunate for the rule books that we're going to look at in a moment. Oh, I just realized I don't have the lit game thing here. Give me a second. We're going to do some live fixing. People who use the time codes will never need to know. Also, I don't know if you're going to watch it later, but if you are, Uncle Kitty, I hope your procedure is going well and that you're recovering well. Our thoughts are with you here, and we do miss you. Looking forward to seeing you back here again. There we go. Like nothing happened at all. This part of the show is called Lit Games. It is the show. Lit Games stands for literature games, but it's really goes by like 50 other names. It's kind of my catch-all. You could call them solo tabletop RPGs, journaling games, solo journaling games, letter writing games. There's like 50 other names for them. But the point is that they are little games. They usually have some sort of structure, and we use that structure on this show as prompts for writing, as well as stuff that you guys drop in chat. And we try to work it all together to make sort of a first draft of some story or some character outline or things like that. With that said, pardon me, I'm going to drink some water. The game we're playing tonight is called Bucket of Bolts. Now, if that sounds like a familiar turn of phrase, and here's where the inverted... I apologize to the person who created this game. They have a very beautiful sort of peach color to this, but I'm running on inverted so that it suits the theme more on Google Docs. So unfortunately, we're going to see this inverted. But if that phrase sounds familiar to you, it's intentional. Bucket of Bolts is a phrase that is used in reference to the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. And that's because this game is very much picking up on the idea that the Millennium Falcon, far beyond Han Solo, is already a legendary ship. Now, that doesn't mean we're doing like Star Wars fanfic, but we are doing sci-fi. And the point of this game, which builds on another system where you make like magical objects and talk about their various owners over the years. This one is specifically about, we make a ship. There are some mechanics here about giving it traits and so on. They do want you to draw a floor plan. Unfortunately, I cannot run a drawing program on this old laptop that's filling the space for my laptop that fried itself. It doesn't have the memory to run all that I need for streaming and the drawing program, unfortunately. So we won't be drawing the floor plan. The idea here is that we are going to create a ship, and then the way it structures itself, and this is really all we need to know for this stream. If you're coming to the stream for like a full description of the rules, that's not... we don't really use all the rules of these games, usually. I do try to use as many of the mechanics as they have, but the fact of the matter is we're using it as a prompt for writing. But the way this works is it gets structured into 3 acts of the ship. I don't think we'll get through all 3, but if we can get through a couple, that'll be good. Act 1 is called the High Era, and it gives you some prompts about what our captain is like and what the ship was originally manufactured for. And so we answer some questions about its sort of epic feats under that captain, what that captain looked like, who they were, what they did. And then that captain meets their demise or sells off the ship or something like that. And then it has this mechanic where we sit in silence and think for a certain amount of time, and sort of pretend we're the ship, just resting and waiting for a new owner, which I'm going to do. But I'll tell you more about that when we get to it. And then Act 2 is themed around strife, and it also gives us another list of captains, and Act 3 is called the Descent, and that will be our last captain, and so on and so forth. And so basically the idea is that by the end we have these tales told about a ship. Witchery says the actual fact is we can't convince Rory to stay for 6 hours and finish. No, you know what the real problem is these games are designed to be finished in 90 minutes, but I'm just too much of a writer to stop writing so much, right? Like, you're not supposed to write as much as I do in any of these games. You're supposed to write little snippets. Well, I guess there's no supposed to about it, but that is sort of the concept of it. They're meant to be a little lighter on the writing, but I'm me, and I write books and short stories, and that's what these turn into. Zombie Wolf says, sitting in silence and thinking for a certain amount of time is literally how we go through a workday. I hope I hope you're not like a train conductor or anything. Jump Store says, I think it looks cool inverted. I agree. But I guess I was just saying somebody paid for a design and I'm messing with their colors. Okay. So with all of that said, I gave us a little intro, a little frame, and that is these stories are going to be told by an old man to a young buck about the things that this ship has been through. So the first part that we have to get to is our captain. So, well, actually our ship, I guess, yeah. So we need to decide what our ship looks like, which I'll show you is... I'll read what it says here. You were constructed, because you play the ship. You were constructed by a team of Starship engineers. Describe them, their design principles, and their political affiliations. We'll see what we can make of that. Add 3 traits describing your ship, then draw it, which we can't do. Sketch out the layout of modules and its silhouette, considering the materials used. If you want to do that at home, though, feel free. Give your ship a model name and a simple factory designation. So let's make our ship. And this is where chat comes in. There's a few places you can throw your ideas in. What's the description of the ship? What is its design principles? Whatever that means to you. See if I can get this. Just trying to figure out why my frame rate isn't great. Usually means that it's not fully connected, but I don't want to mess with my camera too much. Jumpstore says, oof, politics in a public chat. I don't think they mean politics in that sense. I think they mean like sci-fi politics. Like, is it like the game that I've played all week? Helldivers, where you're just fascist? Was it made for that cause? So on and so forth. Was it made to be, you know, a ship of mercy and charity? Was it, you know, I think they're looking more for story points. I don't think they're looking for, like, who did they vote for? Add 3 traits describing your ship. Now, I just need to remind myself if they give us traits. I don't think they do, but double checking. If they do, it's in a section I didn't find. And I apologize if that is the case. The way they laid out this is, I find, a little confusing. It's across multiple books, and no one book has everything you need. Which I guess isn't terribly unusual in, like, D&D and stuff, but whatever. Let's start with our ship. In the voice of our scrapper, of course. GS says, a little mushroom-shaped ship. I like that. We need, I guess the first thing we would do is the name. Or, sorry, rather, model name and factory designation. Dig deep on your sci-fi nerdiness. This is the blah blah designation, whatever. This is a dropping a Red Republic era Lion Swift, Cable Snatcher, CAL3, I see that, Big Drew. For those who are unfamiliar, we'll usually, and this is a completely legitimate thing for you folks to do if you want, we'll write along with the chat, taking the prompts in his own direction. Zombie Wolf and GS are talking about gnomes running the ship. That's very, oh, what's it called? It's a tabletop RPG. Cyberpunk slash D&D races. I can't think of Shadowrun. God, that took a minute. I like that. Sure. This is a Red Republic era Nita type 3 explorer. Oh, we say a warship. Okay. Fighter class ship. Used to be, I could fill this lot with parts of these old beasts during the wars, that is. Gotta have wars. Gonna do sci-fi, gotta have wars. This one, though, no one seemed to have any ideas about its design principles and such, so I'm gonna skip past that for now. Zombie Wolf says, always good to throw Rory a curveball. That is important. Also, if you guys don't throw me curveballs, people will just think I'm not actually doing this. I'm surprised I've never been accused of that, but I think the low grade prose I'm producing probably confirms it. Used to be I could fill this lot with parts of these old beasts during the wars, that is. This one, though, was captained by... Okay, and then when we look at the book, and we don't really have to use their prompts, you know, as per usual, but the High Era... is it gives us 4 options. We don't again have to take them, but a long distance hauler, a renowned mercenary. It sounds like we're leaning more towards a no mercenary, an intelligence agent, and a galactic senator. I'm guessing you guys want me to make a ship of no mercenaries. But if you want to use one of the other ones, tell me now. I'm going to have a drink of water. Tell me now. Also, if you guys are new here, I mean, chat knows this, but if you're new and you're wondering why I have to delay, it's because there's already a delay on the stream. Close to a minute of delay, sometimes 30 seconds. It varies a bit. Jumpstore says, I played a sci-fi game where the main character was some evolved humanoid that apparently evolved from dragonflies. That's very cool. So honestly, gnomes in space aren't the weirdest thing I've seen in this genre. Nah, you can put anything in anything. GS says, yes, mercenaries place their strength. And then Witchery says, a no mercenary. There's a knot in my headphone cable. Just give me a second. Okay. This one was captained by... Okay, so now that we know it's a mercenary, they give us these prompts of they are capable, steadfast, and world-weary. You don't, again, have to adapt to any of these. The game is just giving prompts. Then it says, describe the motley crew of professionals they travel with, which of their victories, whenever it says you, it's referring to the ship here, which of their victories left you in the most critical condition. And so basically what happens is we need to describe the captain of the ship, a couple of their accomplishments, kind of like if you've ever seen any of those little entries in Knight's books. And we have tables. So we can answer captain questions by using, it's down here. So we have 2 tables. Our captain can be a love and triumph or a scum and villainy, which it sounds like we're going scum and villainy. And it gives us some notable events we could write about and some questions we could answer. We don't have to do that either. GS has found a gnome generator, and it suggests the name Bilzu. Jumpstore says they look like people except for their skin color, the glittery effect. Oh, that's very cool. Still talking about the Dragonfly story there. So we have these little tables we can come for prompts, but now's your chance. If you want to be a gnome mercenary on this ship, give a name and a brief description of the kind of gnome you are. You don't have to be a gnome, but I kind of like the idea of a team of gnomes. It's captained by the wretched Bilzu. I know it's Blizzu, but I like Bilzu. It's a little closer to Beelzebub for me. The wretched Bilzu. It's a good gnome last name. How about Gutterfield? It's not really gnomey, but a profiteer. Sorry, not a profiteer, a privateer. And menace to all sides during the chaos of the galactic wars. Jumpstore says Antares. I might be saying that wrong. Antares? Oh, Genera. Good to see you. Thank you for watching. So with Genera, we're playing a ship rather than a specific character, and we're describing 3 different captains it had from its first life to its end of life. I mean, it's a ship, so like from when it came into operation. It's about the legend of a ship rather than individuals. Okay. Antares. He stood 3 foot 11 and a half inches. He was always emphatic about that half inch. And he had a body count only rivaled by a stack of credits. Okay. Give me like a sentence of description as we introduce your folks as well, if you want. We got a few. Big Drew says Commander Plexico rather. GS says Liltra Imbus. Regulus from Zombie Wolf. Okay. He was held up at the flanks by his first lieutenant, Liltra Imbus. A fiery, rather, how about a quiet but fierce little gnome who never wore shoes because she had nurtured a half-inch of calluses. She would never shave down, I guess. Not how you spell calluses. What are they talking about? GS says you'll never remember all of these. I'm going to introduce them, and then I'm going to probably move on a bit and use them as possible. If anyone feels like you're all going to get a storyline, that I'm sorry to let you down. That's not going to happen. And Terrace, there we are again. And Terrace was the tallest of the crew at 4'1" And did we get a description? And Terrace is a bit sarcastic, but very observant and steadfast, even under dire circumstances. As for our rank, I'll let Rory decide. I don't know enough about ranks. I think lieutenant's going to be the only rank here. Captain and lieutenant. And then, I guess, grunt. When she wasn't sharpening her two long blades, too long, what's a sci-fi word? Dominion steel fire blades. She was aggravating the captain. With her sharp observations delivered on by sarcastic words. Regulus, okay. Short but plucky and clever. Zombie Wolf says, did you notice my Regulus? Yeah, I'm doing things in order. Regulus. Tended to keep poor company with the crew, preferring to fuss and fidget with the Amanita's hyper engine, looking for new optimizations and clever workarounds. In fact, it is said that this ship was the fastest of its class because of the obsessions of that quiet little gnome. Zombie Wolf says I should have been a bit more patient. Ah, whatever. You don't have to be patient. Alright. I see that Witchery says, what if victories caused a new mushroom to grow on their hats? Poisonous ones only. That's cool. If Flex Plexico is already taken, I'll be Staff Sergeant Max Fight Master. Victory says Flex Plexico is not taken. Okay. I'm gonna do Flex Plexico last. So am I forgetting anybody? I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. Let me know if I forgot somebody. The last of the bunch was Commander Flex Plexico, who wasn't a commander on that ship or any other one, and never would be. Flex had a powerful right hook and a club and a roughly hammered shard of moon iron that he called Captain Clubby. Or I guess if he thinks he's a commander, First Lieutenant Clubby. They were the fiercest order of mercenaries to ever come from the Pumpkin Grove region of Happy Planet. Misfits from birth. They sought adventure and terror in good order. Okay, so now we have an option of their most like notable story that they do. So they give us some options, but you guys can also pitch stuff. Your captain and crew returning from a planet-side excursion found themselves ambushed in the docking bay. Out of fuel and funds, your captain was forced to land at the nearest space station. Your captain vastly overestimated their bargaining skills and purchased counterfeit parts from a trader with a toothy grin. Emergency klaxons jolted the crew awake. If you don't know, those are like sirens. But before you could escape, raiders boarded. Your captain took a foolish contract to transport large, violent beasts across the galaxy for an enigmatic collector. And whether by accident or intent, you were wrecked in a spectacular crash. Which we probably don't want to do right away. But we have to choose one of these as our sort of first notable thing that happened in our time under the gnome captain. So which one interests us? GS says they smoked so much on board that they overloaded the oxygen exchange. I like it. Also, I did notice your comment about the little mushroom ship had an issue with space barnacles. I am keeping that stuff in mind. Anything you post, if I see an opportunity, I will stick it in. Keep in mind that we can use these prompts on our next captain. I think we'll probably get through another one. GS says, out of fuel and funds, your captain was forced to land at the nearest space station. Okay. So then it gives us a question. We don't have to answer this question, but at least start to consider it. Describe the port and why they would never have willingly stopped there. What risky or demeaning task were they demanded to perform to get restocked? So that's going to be its little story. So we're going to take our gnome team, and we're going to tell about this story. Jump Stories likes the crash scenario. Let's do it on the next one then. Yeah, because that'll probably be our last one we do anyways. And I agree with you. It brings out the best drama and humor in any situation. So, out of fuel and funds, your captain was forced to land. We need to describe the port and why we would never willingly have stopped here. What risky or demeaning task were they demanded to perform to get restocked? Keeping in mind that it's still a part of the legend of the ship. For our gnomes. However, their most famous tale was one that began with folly. Now I gotta remember all these names. The captain was called Bilzu Gutterfield. Captain Bilzu and his crew of wretched and depraved gnomes had drawn too deep upon the herbs in their pipes, clogging up the air exchange, giggling at the beeping alarms, and sleeping like strewn laundry about the ship as it ran dry of fuel. When they awoke, Witcher says South Farthing strikes again. Genera says they were out of edible mushrooms. They only had poisonous ones left. Oh, dear. Okay. I think you're right, Jumpstore. I guess I don't want to bring that tradition forward because I think it probably was a mean one. But I think that is a good idea overall. They had to deliver crystals across hot chasms on thin tight ropes. Oh. Got some good ideas here. There's a jester like that in Dragon's Dogma, if you've ever played that game. Of which there is a sequel coming in 2 months. When they awoke, their ship was adrift. Now, this was a problem for any crew, but it was a particularly major issue for the no mercenaries. See, they had many enemies who were almost always in some combination following them. This wasn't an issue for the fastest ship in the quadrant. But now it was slower than a pedal on the wind. They used some auxiliary and landed at the closest dock they could. The closest dock they could. Okay. So it says in here, describe the port and why they would never have willingly stopped here. So, what is it about the port? Now, obviously, the cliche thing is to make it like, well, it's dangerous. It's the enemy's port. But I kind of like the idea that it's a port that bothers them on another level. Like it's way too cheerful there or something. Maybe it's a port where everybody is constantly singing rather than talking. Though I will remind you, we are not writing lyrics. That took 10 minutes or something out of the last stream I tried to do that in. And it wasn't compelling. Okay, we'll do that then. Gia says, that's original, Rory. Yeah? Because in my mind, they came from a planet of really cliched gnomes, but they happen to be, like, evil pirates. And so they're trying to get away from that. And so they don't want to land there because they don't want to. Ghosh says, and welcome back, Ghosh. What about dirty limericks? I just think anything that rhymes, I'm going to be slow as hell at. I'm not a great poet. I did write a lot of poetry for many years, and none of it was very good. It's just not my skill set. Closest doc they could. What would be the name of a port where everyone laughed? Or, sorry, sang, rather. Or a planet or whatever else. Port Glamoria. I'll take any other name, but I'm putting that one in for now. Port Glamoria. Now, you gotta understand, most gnomes love a cheerful song. Deep in their culture. But these weren't normal gnomes. Under no other circumstance would they have landed in a place so specifically irritating to them. Oh, Ghosh says, Port Jolly. I like that. That's funny. Port Octave. Oh, there's lots of great names here. Port Yo-Ho-Ho. Port Happy Song. Jubil Dale. Broadway Bay. That's a good one, too. Let's stick with Port Jolly. Okay. Under no other circumstances would they have landed in a place so specifically irritating. Ghosh says, I thought yours was better. Mine is too sci-fi. I think we're leaning into the goofiness here. Would they have landed in a place so specifically irritating to them? With a mutual rub of each, sorry, not a rub, a pinch. With a mutual pinch of each of their noses and a squint that only one with a very bad headache can make. They opened the bay door to the only planet in the entire galaxy who communicates exclusively by cheerful music. All right. They open the bay door to the only planet in the entire galaxy who communicates exclusively by cheerful music. Now I gotta keep remembering that this is in the voice of a character within the story. Now you gotta understand that this place was always in the same key, E major specifically, and constantly rhyming. They asked for fuel on credit. And a smiling, rosy-cheeked local tapped out a 3/4 waltz and began a 3.5 minute number about how one cannot pay the rent without with promises and intent. And they speak about an octave higher than the gnomes. Oh god, the octave higher would rub me the wrong way. Excellent idea, yes. It wasn't just that they answered in full, repetitive, musical numbers. Yeah, that's right. GS says, oh yeah, Rory, every reply is a 3-minute musical performance. Which they could not stop, despite their very sincere pleading. It was also that the planet had an abnormal concentration of helium in its atmosphere that led to all voices being, for lack of a kinder word, shrill. Gennaro says lunch is over. I must depart. Bye, everyone. That's quite all right, Gennaro. I hope your day goes well. Okay. Okay, so we've set up the irritation. Now, what do they have to do to get that fuel? I'm going to add a note here while we do that, but I want you to think about, we did talk a little bit about some options like walking across a tightrope and whatever else. I said I didn't really want to play on their status as little people because I feel like that's punching down and I don't want to do that. But knowing what we know, what we've built about the port, is there something you can think that would specifically irritate them that they could get fuel from that's still somewhat legendary, right? Like that would be a tale worth telling if you're trying to tell the story of this ship. I'm just going to add something here. It might seem to you, young pirate, that this would be a place of simpletons who were easily swindled and robbed. However, learning to sing all the time was an effect of an extremely rigid authoritarian culture whose main export was anti-aircraft weaponry sold to both sides of the Galactic War. There were few places less appealing to the pirate class than Port Jolly. Yeah, okay, so could they sing, could force them to sing, but how do you make singing epic? They're talking about making them sing Justin Bieber songs. I will say this, I'm not really a Justin Bieber fan. I don't even really know his songs that well. Kid can sing, though. I mean, it's undeniable. The kid can sing. Ghosh says, harmonic crystal refinement for fuel. Everyone has to keep singing so as not to disrupt the machines. I like that. I think there's a good idea in there. And we could combine that with the tightrope thing, like the thin path. Like they'll be like, you know, you can have 10% of the fuel crystals, but you got to get them yourself. And that means, I don't know, they have to sing to do it for Ghosh's reason. If I'm understanding that correctly. Victory says fuel is produced when the recipient sings in no less than 3-part harmony toward the pump, which is powered by song. I think we all have about the same ideas. It's just different versions of it. Okay. So now they had little choice. And with some bargaining, which took an age, as every response was a song and dance. Ghost says, I'm just throwing spaghetti. Yeah, just to be, you know, meta for a moment, if there's obviously multiple motivations for me to do weird streams and whatever that I do, but one of them was, as a writer, people would come up to me and talk about, you know, the popular question is like, where do you get your ideas and stuff like that. And I feel like part of the reason I did this stream, but also part of the reason why I do the other stream, is to sort of point out that, like, that's how creativity works. I think people expect ideas to come more fully formed than they are. So yeah, you know, people throw ideas out there, and then I sort of run them through my idea mill and see how I can add to them and build on them. And that's sort of the genesis. It's, you know, genetics of an idea. You just sort of throw stuff together, and then I try to weave it together into something a little cohesive, and then usually we come out with a story. Sometimes it just doesn't work, but I would say more often than not. And arguably, that's all I really do. I do like that idea. I don't know how to work it in, though, Gush. I do find that funny. They were hired to help mine harmonic fuel crystals. This was particularly distasteful to the hungover gnomes that had sworn off songs when they stole their first ship and left behind their gnome colony. But down to the volcanic pits they went, forced to sing cheerful songs in three-part harmony, or face the possibility of causing a disharmonized, ultra imploding external crystal blast. An extremely deadly consequence. Known to occur around ill-performing miners in the harmonized crystal mines. So they had to mine some crystals. How does that make them or the ship epic? Said the unimpressed young pirate. Let me ask you this, youngin'. Have you ever been in a fight? The old scrapper focused in. On the young kid. Of course, he said, with a puffed chest. And won every one since I was knee high. Okay. You ever fought anything big? Scrapper asked. I fought Big Joe, legendary boxer. At the High Star Saloon out by Jupiter. The kid smirked. Nah, I don't mean big like that. I mean, have you ever fought a Credulian Credulian rot spider? Twice the size of that ship, of this ship right here. GS says wedgeworm, and Big Duru says credulity hammelflammel. Jumpstore says bra seconds away from that Nyadwin meme. The scrapper leaned in as the boy began to lightly shake his head, then cut him off, adding, "You ever fought something as big and mean as a Credulian rot spider while having to hold 3-part harmonies or risk blowing up your whole crew?" Nah, I didn't think so. See, no one went into that vein because it was infested with the things. In fact, they nearly got eaten by it, scurrying out. With their arms laden with vibrating and unstable fuel crystals. The chat's got back to Has-Been Hotel. Welcome to the unofficial Has-Been Hotel fan meeting. Swiping blindly back against iron melting, acid spray, and a cavalcade of scurrying legs longer than 2 men stacked on each top. While still singing songs about cheerful work and their love of it. The only thing that saved them was that their ship flew up above and fired a volley that shook loose the cave, leaving it a crush of rubble. Sizzling into the corpse of the highly acidic Credulian rot spider swarm. Tammy says, I'm watching the first season of Has Been Hotel with my daughter tomorrow. We're making a day of it. I think you said you've seen Hell of a Boss, so you know what you're getting into. My temptation is Zombie Wolf has to warn people about it. Not that it's bad, but it is quite adult. Zombie Wolf says, sorry, Rory, but this chat might stray into a surprise Has Been Hotel fan club chat room occasionally. That's fine, as long as you guys are having fun. In addition, that is a feature it still has today, actually. Thanks to the late, great... What was Zombie Wolf's character's name? The little engineer? Regulus, that's right. Thanks to the late, great Regulus. Rumor is they simply traded it after the war when freighters were going cheap. Ghost says, God, keeping characters and things consistent, pure pain. Well, I mean, I do my best, but if I feel like it's really dragging the stream down, I sometimes just guess. GS says, I hate spiders, but I feel so compelled to draw Rory's incredible Credulian rot spider. Well, that'd be cool. I'm always welcoming of art. If you guys want to draw our little mushroom ship, you can. I didn't really go out of my way to describe it, which is bad form on me. It's part of the game, but... Zombie Wolf says, oh, Regulus is dead. Yeah, so if I didn't make it clear, every crew is either dead or moved on. The ship is meant to be like 150 years old. Ghost says, good plot ideas don't care about consistency, darn it. Indeed. But yeah, that's the idea, is that the whole idea of the game is that this ship outlives all of its captains. That's the notion of it. But, you know, of course, if you want to write more stories about your little gnome crew, you guys are also welcome to do that. I mean, that's half the point of any of this, is that we come up with ideas, but then you can branch out and write all the fan fiction you want in these worlds we create. Rumor is they simply traded it after the war when freighters were going cheap. But I heard Regulus wouldn't leave it be. Spent... Did we give Regulus a gender? Make them MB for now. You let me know what gender you see them as, Zombie Wolf, but I'll make them MV for now. Retirement. Around the galaxy, selling people on a pyramid scheme. Pyramid. There we go. Scheme. I saw Regulus as a he. Then he it is. Spent his retirement piloting around the galaxy, selling people on a pyramid scheme. He invented involving a home business of specialized ship lubricants that were just bottled lard left over from his dinners. At any rate, that was just the first of its many epic legendary captains. And the feats they performed with this here garbage ship, as you called it. Zombie Wolf says, no, Regulus created an MLM that's so evil. Yeah, he's evil. He's a pirate. Jumpstart says, yeah, I'm laughing my ass off. They were evil. They were. Who's more of a pirate? Yes, that's an amazing little assembly of emojis there. It's 3 gnomes, 1 with a beard and 2 without. And then 3 spiders, and then a little mushroom, and then music. There were so many good ideas in chat that I just couldn't find a way to fill in. Well, that's fine and all, but that's when it was new. Surely it didn't have much life left in it, said the young pirate captain. Well, you'd be wrong about that, said the old scrapper, said, raising his eyebrows, because who got it next was twice the legend they were. And they couldn't have done any of it were you without that ship. Jumpstore says, don't feel bad, Rory. It's a much bigger chat now. You should feel proud. Well, thank you, Jumpstore. It's a very kind thing to say. Yeah, it is a much busier chat. I did early on have this thought. I was like, what am I going to do if I ever have a lot of followers? And I was like, you're never going to have a lot of followers. You're just talking to yourself while typing on a platform that's largely highly edited and highly boom, 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 boom. I was like, that'll never be a problem. But now I'm starting to wonder. I think I don't think I have enough time for another one. I know I promised another one, but we really got into that one. So I think I'll read back all of it, including my intro that I wrote before the stream. And I think I'll have to call it there. But as always, like, if people really like a thing and want me to come back, want me to keep doing this, I will. I'll just say what I said every time this comes up, where like there's an obvious option to keep going. Every time I do a second stream, it is way less popular. And no, I don't just do this for clicks, but I also just don't want to be alone with things. if enough folks want to come back and write the second act of the ship, we can. But yeah, just you got to let me know either in the comments if you're not watching live, or you can tell me here. But let's see what we came up with. If you're coming to this part of the stream, it's because you just want to know what we came up with. And what we came up with was a playthrough of, a partial playthrough anyways, of what I dubbed That Old Thing, a Bucket of Bolts playthrough. Bucket of Bolts is the name of the game, which you can get, if not watching live, at the pinned comment down below. If you are watching live, there are no pinned comments. It is not this color. This is inverted. I mentioned this before, but it is otherwise looks like this. Bucket of Bolts basically gets you to take the role of a ship, or a legendary ship who has multiple captains, and tell the stories of the legendary things those captains did in that ship. So it focuses on the ship over multiple captains. GS says, sing the story an octave higher, Rory. That'll make sense later. I'm not going to be doing that. So I'm going to read to you what we came up with chat, what I came up with before as a little bit of a frame, before the stream, and what we came up together as chat. We only got through one captain of the ship, but it is a hell of a story. And I'm going to read that to you now. I just need something that can get me to the outer ring. Then I'll have enough money to get me a real hot streaker of a ship, the young pilot said, fixing his high-collared rubber jumpsuit to frame his jaw just right. He squinted and stared off towards the pale sun that glared upon this quiet moon. He blinked a few times, then rubbed his eyes and shifted his stare off the sun and towards the line of ruined old freighters, chargers, jump ships, and dogfighters that lined the crooked alleys of this junkyard. The scrapper looked the young man over for a minute. This old man had seen decades turn to lifetimes out there on that old lot of broken space cruisers. This kid wasn't anything new. Despite the scrapper's home being out there being near an empty moon over a mostly uninhabited planet, he rarely spent a day... What a mess of a sentence. He rarely spent a day alone because young pirates such as the punk before him were always nosing around looking for something to get them to the next galaxy or beyond. That's why writers have editors. They're all good ships, the scrapper grumbled. That's why they're wrecked. A good ship runs, the young captain said with a furrowed brow and a dismissive tone. Oh, but they did, the scrapper said with a widening smile that revealed a half-deck of metal teeth from a full life of violence. Take this old ship here that you're leaning against like it's nothing. She's had 3 captains, each more legendary than the last, and yet all that remains is her, not them. This old heap looks like garbage, the young captain said, scratching at the shaved side of his head. The scrapper shook his head and walked onward into his scrapyard, but something held that young captain back. And after a moment of pause, he called out, Who were these legendary captains then? The scrapper smirked to himself and said, Well, now take a seat, boy, and I'll tell you the makings of real legends. This here is a Red Republic-era Amanita Type 3 fighter-class ship. Used to be I could fill this lot with the parts of these old beasts, during the wars, that is. This one, though, was captained by the wretched Bilzu Gutterfield, a privateer and menace to all sides during the chaos of the Galactic Wars. He stood 3 foot 11.5 inches. He was always emphatic about that half-inch, too, and he had a body count only rivaled by his stack of treasures he'd looted after many epic battles. He was often flanked in battle by his first lieutenant, Liltra Imbus, a quiet but fierce little gnome who never wore shoes because she had nurtured a half-inch of calluses she would never shave down. And Terrace was the tallest of the crew at 4 foot 1 inch. When she wasn't sharpening her 2 long Dominion steel fire blades, she was aggravating the captain with her sharp observations delivered by sarcastic words. Regulus tended to keep poor company with that crew. preferring to fuss and fidget with Amanita's hyper-engine, looking for new optimizations and clever workarounds. In fact, it is said that this ship was the fastest of its class because of the obsessions of that quiet little gnome. The last of the bunch was Commander Flex Plexco, who wasn't a commander on that ship or any other one, and never would be. Flex had a powerful right hook and a roughly hammered shard of moon iron that he called First Lieutenant Clubby. They were the fiercest order of mercenaries to ever come from the Pumpkin Grove region of Happy Planet. Misfits from birth, they sought adventure and terror in good order. However, their most famous tale was one that began with folly. Captain Bilzu and his crew of wretched and depraved gnomes had drawn too deep upon the herbs in their pipes, clogging up the air exchange, giggling at the beeping alarms, and sleeping like strewn laundry about the ship as it ran dry of fuel. When they awoke, their ship was merely adrift. Now, this was a problem for any crew, but it was a particularly major issue for the gnome mercenaries. See, they had many enemies who were almost always in some combination following them. This wasn't an issue for the fastest ship in the quadrant, but now it was slower than a pedal on the wind. They used some auxiliary and landed at the closest dock they could, Port Jolly. Now, you gotta understand, most gnomes love a cheerful song. It's deep in their culture. But these weren't normal gnomes. Under no other circumstances would they have landed in a place so specifically irritating to them. With a mutual pinch of each of their noses and a squint that only one with a very bad headache can make, they opened the bay door to the only planet in the entire galaxy who communicates exclusively by cheerful music. Now, you gotta understand that this place was always in the same key, E major specifically, and constantly rhyming. They asked for fuel on credit, and a smiling, rosy-cheeked local business folk tapped out a 3/4 waltz and began a 3.5-minute number about how one cannot pay the rent with the promises and intent, and it went on like that. It wasn't just that every answer came in full, repetitive musical numbers, 3-4 minutes at a time, which they could not stop despite their very sincere pleading. It was also that the planet had an abnormal concentration of helium in its atmosphere that led to all voices being, for lack of a kinder word, shrill. It might seem to you, young pirate, that this would be a place of simpletons who were easily swindled and robbed. However, learning to sing all the time was an effect of an extremely rigid authoritarian culture whose main export was anti-aircraft weaponry sold to both sides of the galactic war. There were few places less appealing to the pirate class than Port Jolly. So now they had little choice, and with some bargaining, which took an age as every response was a song and dance 3-4 minutes at a time, they were hired to help mine harmonic fuel crystals, on the understanding they could keep some and fly out. This was particularly distasteful to the hungover gnomes that had sworn off songs when they stole their first ship and left behind their gnome colony, but down to the volcanic pits they went, forced to sing cheerful songs in 3-part harmony or face the possibility of causing a disharmonized ultra-imploding external crystal blast, an extremely deadly consequence known to occur around ill-performing miners in the harmonized crystal mines. So they had to mine some crystals? How does that make them, or the ship for that matter, epic? Said the unimpressed young pirate. Let me ask you this, young'un. You ever been in a fight? The old scrapper focused in on the young kid. Of course, he said with a puffed chest, and won every one since I was knee-high. Okay. You ever fought anything big? The scrapper asked. I fought Big Joe, legendary boxer, at the High Star Saloon out by Jupiter, the kid smirked. Nah, I don't mean big like that. I mean, have you ever fought a Credulian rot spider twice the size of this ship right here? Scrapper leaned in as the boy began to lightly shake his head in confusion and concern, then cutting him off, adding, "You ever fought something as big and as mean as a Credulian rot spider, well having to hold 3-part harmonies or risk blowing up your whole crew? Nah, I didn't think so. See, no one went into that vein because it was infested with the things. In fact, they nearly got eaten by it, scurrying out with their arms laden by vibrating, unstable fuel crystals, swiping blindly back against iron-melting acid spray and a cavalcade of scurrying legs longer than 2 men stacked from foot to shoulder, while still singing songs about cheerful work and their love of it. The only thing that saved them was that their ship flew up above and fired a volley that shook the whole rock face right down to its roots where they were running, and leaving it loose enough that the cave fell into a crush of rubble, sizzling into the corpse of those highly acidic Credulian rot spider swarm. That is a feature it still has today, actually, thanks to the late great Regulus. Rumor is they simply traded it after the war when freighters were going cheap, but I heard Regulus wouldn't leave it be. Spent his retirement piloting around the galaxy, selling people on a pyramid scheme he invented involving a home business of specialized ship lubricants that were supposedly just bottled lard left over from his dinners. At any rate, that was just the first of its many legendary captains and the feats they performed with this here supposed garbage ship, as you called it. Well, that's fine and all, but that's when it was new. Surely it didn't matter much. It didn't have much life left in it, said the young pirate captain. Well, you'd be wrong about that, the old scrapper said, raising his eyebrows, because who got it next was twice the legend they were, and they couldn't have done any of it without that ship. That's as far as we got. Tammy says, you sound a lot better this week, Rory. Nice to hear your variety of voices. Well, thank you. Glad to hear it. GS says, such a good and funny story. Yeah, I think we had fun with this one. I liked the weirdness. I think what really sort of kicked us off in a fun direction was your recommendation about gnomes there, GS. And Zombie Wolf is living up to their responsibilities. And says, random trivia time. I promise this will be more wholesome than Tuesday, so Rory can read it aloud. You're not obligated to do anything. I will always have to make my own choices. A goldfish's memory can last up to 6 months, and they can recognize their owner's face. I did not know that. Ghosh gives me some claps and says, ship it! Let's see the live action adaptation. Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, this was fun. I'll be honest. I was concerned. There is a couple of genres of this where you take in an object, and you tell the story of the object, the tales that were done with the object. We even did a version of it once with swords, way back in like April of last year. But I do find that I was sometimes people have a hard time getting their head around it and like what we're up to. And so I was a little concerned going into this stream, and instead everyone had like a million ideas and I had a great deal of fun. So I hope you guys had fun too. Like I said, if you guys want to come back to this, I probably won't come back to it right away, but let me know and we can write that next story. And of course, if you want to try this for yourself, I think today is the last day you can get it. Not this game, but the bundle. I think this is from, I could be wrong about this. I think this is from Solo But Not Alone, but if it's not, I apologize for misleading you. But Solo But Not Alone, I think, is on its last day, and a bunch of the games I played in the last couple of weeks were definitely from that. So it's like 10 or 15 bucks depending on your currency, and you get like 120 games, of which I would say about 75% are good. So if you haven't gotten that yet and you like this style of games, I do recommend that. I have absolutely no connection to any of this. I don't create these people. They don't give them to me. I pay for them myself or otherwise take community copies sometimes because I don't really have a lot of money. But no, I have no benefit. Zombie Wolf says, so now whenever someone says you have a goldfish memory, thank them for the compliment. Well, I don't have a goldfish memory is what I've learned here today. Big Drew says mine had some fun names, but was just a brief synopsis. I liked your character you came up with, Big Drew. I wanted to do more with him, but the mining thing didn't give me a lot of room for it. Zombie Wolf says, bye, everyone. Hope to see everyone again next week. Thanks again, Rory. Yeah, and again, much love to Uncle... I'm forgetting the name. I had it at the beginning. About his eye procedure. The outro song here is the only time I'm ever probably going to use this unless we come back to this, and it is a fun space themed pop song. No lyrics, but it's very like high energy pop because I thought you guys might like it. I heard it and I was like, I bet somebody in the chat would like that. So if you want to stick around and listen to that, you can. Uncle Kitty, thank you. Oh, my apologies. I'm tremendously bad with names. It's amazing that I've done this well. Anyways, Tammy says, thank you, Rory. It was a great time. Have a wonderful weekend. Can't wait for Tuesday. Thank you very much for watching, Tammy. Big Drew says, Flex Plexico and Max Fight Master are real American military people. I think you should keep... I think maybe we could make them captains in the future. And thank you to Jump Store, GS, Gosh, Zombie Wolf, Tammy, Big Drew, and Gennaro, who dropped by. And if I'm forgetting anybody else, it's nothing personal. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, which means you're going to have to eject into space and hope that you're flying in the right direction. Because, and I gotta say this clearly, you need to get out of my ship.